Okay, let's talk about scaling, and this is definitely a super important video and really a super important concept. And before we get too far into it, I want to talk about really the idea of scaling being one of the biggest challenges in the business. Definitely, scaling is tough for sure, and I think that it's not only tough in terms of developing a strategy. You're going to learn a great set of strategies here. There's multiple strategies that we're going to use to scale, but also you need to be emotionally prepared for it. And in fact, one of the strategies that I'm going to cover is actually the idea of scaling emotionlessly, basically scaling like a robot. That's a big skill that you're going to develop. I'll show you how to do that. But really, scaling is challenging and it's scary, right? You're actually risking more money. But the way that I want you to think about it is it's when you get to scaling, it's basically the reward of this business. Like, this is what you're shooting to get for from day one. You want to find a product that you can scale, because this is like having hindsight if you were an investor in the stock market, right? Like this, everyone would want to invest all their money if they knew that they'd be investing it in a stock that was in heavy demand, right? And the equivalent of that in the e-commerce business is you want to scale your products that you know are already winners, right? And you want to be well set up to be able to scale, and that's where the interest group strategy shines so well. It's perfectly set up for scaling. You're going to see how. But think of more. Don't be at all scared of scaling. Think of it as your reward. You deserve to be here. If you're scaling, it's because you found a product that is in demand, and of course now you want to put more money towards it, because scaling 101 says when you have something that works, show it to more similar people, and that's a great investment to make. Right, so I'm actually going to show you, as we go through this little, I'm showing you, I think, 5 different scaling strategies that I use. I'm going to show you, in conjunction with an actual campaign that I'm running. So I'll piece together some of that footage from a live campaign as well, so you can see that. And it will really make a lot of sense in terms of going through a whole scaling process. So with that being said, we jump into it. There are really 4 different types of scaling progressions that we're going to go over, right? And they're all their own form of scaling. Of course, I'm talking about scaling ads last, but pixel scaling, the way that you test, that's a form of scaling. Audiences can be scaled, and then of course scaling as in showing your ad to more people. But again, these are all different progressions that you're going to learn. Let's start with pixel. Okay, pixel progression. This is really going to answer the question, what do I use or what do I select when I'm optimizing for an event, right? We know that we're going to pick website conversion for our ad objective, right? There's no doubt that website conversion is the best ad objective. No doubt. But as we know, when we're going in to create an ad, right, there are different objectives, right? There are different, let me get this out of the way. There are different objectives that we can pick. I'm just going to bring up a sample ad right now. And when we pick conversion, we need to pick our event. And this is the progression that you would go with. You're always going to start with add to cart. If you're a brand new store, right? If you're a brand new store, or more effectively, if you are running with a brand new pixel, or a pixel that doesn't have too much information on it, you need to start with add to cart. Okay, and you see over here, I'm talking about this section right here, the actual event that you're going to optimize for. Add to cart. And of course, there are other events in here. We could take a look. And of course, the important one, or the valuable one, is purchase. Right? It's being a little weird right now, but you see that it's in there. We're going on add to cart. Right? And I'm kind of thinking that I'm not even in the right ad account right now, but either way, you see the point. I got to make sure I'm in the right ad account, but this is the idea here, right? In this event right here, we are picking add to cart. Okay, and you see in the presentation, we want to move off of add to cart as quickly as possible, but we can't just go right to purchase, because the thing about purchase is, actually, let me step back. A little bit more about the pixel, right? The pixel is going to say, okay, Justin wants to optimize for the purchase event. Okay, great. I'm going to go into the pixel. I'm speaking as Facebook's algorithm right now. I'm going to go into Justin's pixel, and I'm going to pull out all of the people that have done purchases. Okay, and in a great pixel, there might be 10,000 purchases. Right? So you're in a store that's been live for months and you've scaled tons of products. You could have a pixel, a super powered pixel, that has 25,000 purchases. Right? I'm just making up a number. Okay, on the other hand, your brand new pixel has 0 purchases. So Facebook needs to leverage the data inside the pixel to optimize the ad, right? That's what the Facebook pixel is all about. It nonstop captures information to be used in the optimization of your ad. Well, you should already know what I'm about to say next, right? A brand new pixel that has 0 purchases versus a seasoned pixel that has 25,000 purchases, what is going to be more of an asset for Facebook? Obviously the latter, right? Obviously the seasoned pixel. And why is that? It's because they're able to go in there and pull out the data about these people who have made these 25,000 purchases, and then then Facebook is saying, okay, based on the targeting, in our case, based on the interest group that we're using, let's go find people that are going to perform similarly to these 25,000 purchasers. Right? That is super powerful. That is very realistic for Facebook to do a good job on that ad with purchase. Okay? But if you have 0 information about purchasers, how is Facebook going to use the pixel to help? Right? That's the whole idea about pixel progression. This is why, and I actually see a question in the chat box from Ken, why is add to cart instead of purchase? Simply because we don't have enough purchase data. And there's no doubt that purchase is the toughest event to optimize for. So what we want to do is basically get the pixel working. So, I mean, in a perfect world, we'd go right to purchase. But it just makes for, you're going to see very high CPMs that way. It makes for a bit of a more challenging setup. Okay, when you get to 25 purchases, right, that's when I'll go ahead and start moving off to purchase. Okay, and I think other people will tell you, forget it, you need 250, right? And the number is debatable, right? For me, I want to go to purchase ASAP. 25 is going to be the number that I do, and it's just 25 tracked purchases. Because remember, the pixel tracks everything. It doesn't have to be just one product. It could be anything. The pixel is tracking every single purchase, every single add to cart, every single view content. It's tracking everything, right? So we really want to make sure that we're doing that. And what we really want to also understand is that by going after website conversion add to cart, right, we're basically filling in the pixel. Right? We're basically, we're seeding it with content. We're trying to help make the pixel perform better. And the reason that we can do add to cart is because that's a more attainable event, right? You saw on let me bring the ad screen back for our current campaign that we're about to scale. Where is it? Over here. We got 161 add to carts, right? That's a lot. I mean, we only got 11 purchases, but we got 161 add to carts. So clearly it's plausible for the for Facebook. I think you know this is a new pixel, right? It's only week 2 of our pixel, really. You know that it's plausible for Facebook to find add to carts at a reasonable rate, but finding purchases is definitely more expensive. So we want to really just go ahead and start with add to cart, right? I don't want you to start with view content. I want you to start with add to cart. It's an attainable goal. It's still a powerful goal because it shows that there's buyer's intent, and it will set us off in that progression of being able to go to purchase. Okay, so your first progression that you want to care about is your pixel progression. And in short, it's add to cart to start, moving to purchase when you get 25 sales. Okay, one more thing about functionality. We're never touching an existing ad except for budget. So if this happens where you reach 25, I mean, we could hit 25 sales today, right, for our product. Am I going to go in there and edit my ads to change it to add to cart to purchase? Absolutely not. Right? We're never touching anything that works. Now, what I would definitely do is my next launches, they're going to be purchase. Right? My next ads, they'll be purchase once I hit that 25, but I'm not going to go back and change anything. Okay? So, testing progression. Here's another progression. I've kind of already covered this, I think, in the 3rd class. Each product gets 1 test. Right? I think a big misconception here is that, the more tests you give a product, the better it's going to perform, and that's not the case. Every product does not deserve multiple tests. Every product only deserves 1 test. Then, data about our ads, as we talked about, I think in class 2 or 3, right? Understanding the correct data to read, the CPM, CTR, CPC, that dictates if a product gets another test. Okay, I really want you to save your money on the ad testing. That is the whole idea of the volume game, right? We launch a lot of products. All right, this week we're going to be launching 8 products. They'll all get $25 spent. So I'm investing $200 hopefully finding a winner, right? Will I spend $26 on an ad? No, I won't. I'll spend $25 on an ad. I'll save my dollars. I'll save my pennies. I won't even spend $25 and 1 penny if I time it correctly. Right? And of course, it's unrealistic for you to stop it exactly at $25. But my point is, we want to make sure that we're only testing up to $25. That's how our testing progression looks. And after the $25, we just simply look at those scenarios, right? We have the obvious ones, the obvious cuts or the obvious scales, and then those middling ones, right, where we actually look at the back-end stats. Right, we look at the back-end stats. There, you have good stats. Remember, 2 out of the 3 of those good stats that I covered in the last class about reading ad data. 2 out of the 3 are good. You're going to give it another test. If you only have one out of the 3 or none out of the 3 that are good, well, what do? You turn the ad off and you don't test the product anymore. Okay, that's your testing progression. It's very, very simple. Again, it's just going to be the different scenarios, and you'll start to understand these scenarios. You'll be able to read these scenarios and react to these scenarios immediately, right, without thinking. It'll be like, just like reading the back of your hand. It'll be very, very easy, kind of like second nature, right? I could look at campaigns and I could see, and really, I mean, it should only take you a couple of times to do this, right? You look at your front end stats. Did I make profit? Yes or no? Right? Yes? Okay, great. Scale the ad. No? Okay. Turn the ad off. Okay, if no, look at the back end stats. Right? Low CPM, low cost per click, high CTR, great. That's a middling scenario where we have good stats. We're going to give it another try with one more interest group. Okay, and again, I covered that last time. This is just a little review. So, audience progression. Okay, audience progression, this kind of goes hand in hand with your scaling progression. So, we're all in phase 1, right? Up until this point, we're in phase 1 of our audience progression, and that is, of course, interest groups, right? We've been using interest groups, and we've been mostly intersecting our interest groups if possible. That's phase 1. Those are going to be our audiences, our interest-based audiences, and those are certainly where we're going to be making the most of our money. Okay, phase 2, which is going to happen today, phase 2 is going to be all about custom audiences. Okay, you got your retargeting audience, you got your lookalike audience, right? We got all of the audiences that we'd want to build, right? There's also page-based audiences that we could eventually build. That's going to be phase 2, and that really comes into play when we go into horizontal scaling, which we're doing today. Okay, phase 3, international audiences. Well, you'll see that the phase after, or the progression after horizontal scaling, is scaling internationally, right? So we would then need to build international audiences, and these are very simple, right? These are taking your phase 1 audiences and changing the country, right? Instead of United States, we would do our international group 1, and our international group 1 is Mexico, Australia, UK, France, and also New Zealand. That's a very small one. Okay, those are your 5 countries that you would add. Did I say Canada? Does it go? Canada, UK, Australia, Mexico, New Zealand. Yep. So those are the 5. Okay, so we would go there on international, right? And again, that's super simple. You'll see that under scale by scaling internationally. That's going to be, I think, phase 3 scaling. So phase 4 is the same as phase 1, except I told you when we were doing our interest grouping, there's built-in scalability in these audiences, right? Built-in scalability in the audience. You have the ability to simply unintersect your intersected interest group. So let's say you have something like the Cat Magazine interest group, and it's 5 million in size, but you've intersected it down to 300,000. Well, if you're getting all the way to phase 4 of your progression, meaning you found success with interest groups, you found success with the audiences, you found success internationally, now we're going to simply unintersect our audience. So that Cat Magazine example, if we intersected down to 300,000, we'd simply remove the intersect and go back to that bigger number, that whatever it is, 5 million, right? That's how you progress through audiences, right? This gives you tons of upside, right? Again, I call this the reward part of the business, right? We have a product that we know is working. This is our reward. Our reward is now having so many different people in different ways to show a winning product. Right? This is basically like having hindsight in the stock market. You know a product or you know a stock is doing well. Well, of course, now you'd like to kind of push all your chips into it, right? You want to go all in. And I'll teach you about all in the phases that I show you for scaling. Okay, so this is super important. Okay, this is the most important part of, I think, any part of the Facebook ad side of the business. There's two challenging parts of this business. Number one, finding customers. Number two, scaling. And I truly believe that we've, definitely hit a product that's desired, right? I mean, we're scaling it. Spend about $100 on vertical, right on the budget, and we found a product that definitely needs to get scaled. And remember, what is scaling? Well, it's just simply showing something that works. So our phone case, showing something that works to more similar people. And this is what the scaling progression is all about. Different ways for us to reach more people. Okay, we want to reach more similar people. We want to reach everyone in our niche. And again, that's why the interest grouping strategy is so powerful for this business. We already know exactly who and where these quote unquote more similar people are. Right? They're in our interest groups. They're also in our custom audiences. So that's going to be the horizontal scaling progression. So, talk about vertical first. Okay? I've already been implementing vertical scaling, and why is that? That is increasing the amount spent on your ads, right? You saw that, where's the screenshot? I'm up to, right here, $107 now. Okay, $107 now. We spent $1 in the past couple minutes. Okay, $107 on our total spent, right? Well, if we were doing $5 a day, it would take a while to get up to $100, right? If we were doing $5 a day and we're testing, that's great, right? We want to limit our testing. But we're not in the testing progression, right? We're in the scaling progression. We want to be spending more money. Okay, and this is all about increasing the amount that you spend. Okay? Think of it as, again, investing. You have something that works. Why don't you invest more money into something that works as opposed to testing other things that may not work? And of course, we're going to be testing things that may not work. That's otherwise known as our weekly product launches. But there's no doubt that it makes sense to spend money on things that are working. Right? Again, this is your reward. You're now in the reward phase of the business. You have a product that you found demand. Right now it's time to make money off it. We want to go and spend more money on what's working, so we're going to scale the budget. Again, I told you a little progression. I had 5, 15, 25, 35. Tomorrow, I would say the highest I would go comfortably is $60, right? You're never going to really be doubling your budget except really at the forefront when you're at that $5 mark. So again, if you're in the T-shirt bootcamp, you just have access to these scaling rules. But again, they're basically just rules that I've created that allow me to scale robotically. Very important when we're talking about vertical scaling, okay? Vertical scaling, you have more money on the line. And in fact, after this call ends, I'm going to have at least 2, 3, 4 times the amount of money on a daily basis being spent to this product than I did before. So my point of that is you have more money on the line, you have more risk. And with risk, of course, we're all humans, comes emotion, right? And the worst thing you could do is let emotion come into play when you're scaling your ads. When you're making decisions, you need to be a robot, right? That's why I create the scaling rules. I needed rules set up so that they are predetermined, right? Because the worst thing you could do is tomorrow, right? So you wake up and you see that today we had 20 sales, and you say, oh my God, this is unbelievable, amazing. If I did 20 sales today, if I just 10x my budget, now I'll get 200 sales, right? That's not the case, right? And on the flip side, how about you're spending $200 on an ad and you lose $50 on the day? You don't have a good sales day, and you freak out. You say, oh my God, I totally messed up here. Right now I need to shrink my budget. I need to go back to $5, right? Because you're scaling emotionally, right? You can't scale emotionally. You need to scale robotically. So having a scaling rules, and you don't even need to use mine. You could create your own scaling rules. Basically, the idea is that you have the exact actions that you're going to take predetermined, right? So if you sell 5, you're going to do this. If you sell 10, you're going to do this, right? If you make 100% ROI, you're going to add X to your budget. If you make 50% ROI, you're going to add Y to your budget, et cetera, right? And this allows you to scale robotically. You just simply look up the results on the table, right? You create your own table and you say, okay, well, originally I set this rule and I said if I was going to make 100% ROI, then I'm going to add $25 to my budget. Okay, if I make 200% ROI, then I'm going to double my budget, right? Having these rules predetermined, I can't tell you how valuable. I mean, this completely changed my business, right? This completely changed the way that I look at the business, right? Because I'll tell you the truth, scaling is scary, right? It was definitely, and I think it still is, seen as one of the most challenging parts of the business. It definitely was for me. It was that this was what was holding me back from having those huge months. And it's because, again, it's impossible for emotion not to come into play, right? You're going to be excited, you're going to be upset, you're going to be anxious to spend more or anxious to spend less. Don't let those emotions come into play. Set your scaling rules beforehand, right, and scale off of that. Okay, other notes, 24-hour period, that means you're only scaling off the last 24 hours of results. I don't care what happened 3 days ago, right? Scaling is a 24-hour thing, right? You have to do scaling based on the last 24 hours. Don't let it be any longer of a time frame than that. Okay, another thing in terms of timing, you could scale on day 2 of the campaign. I think when we originally launched this campaign, we didn't make any sales until like day 4. Okay, so obviously I didn't scale, but you could scale on day 2. Let's say you made a handful of sales, you could scale, right? Again, this is why it's so important to have predetermined scaling rules, right? It's not like, it's not if I'm going to scale. It's not should I scale. It's, okay, I'm looking up these rules that I created and I'm just robotically following them. Right? And of course, each ad set that you have, at this point we're only going to have one ad set, each ad set should get vertical scaling applied. This is going to be a lot more powerful when we start doing other scaling techniques. Because everything will funnel into this vertical scaling idea. You're going to see how powerful it is when we go over the next one, horizontal. Okay? So vertical scaling gets applied to everything, right? The whole idea here is, again, we want to have ad sets that are working, and then we want to spend more on what's already working. Okay. So specifically, I wanted you to see an example of what your scaling rules could look like. This is what I would use. This is what I do use for products that have a $10 margin. And you could feel free to take these rules or just kind of use these as guidelines to build your own. It's definitely important that you kind of, at least if you don't build your own, at least kind of understand what the rules mean. So again, there should be no emotion involved when you're going ahead and actually scaling these when you go and do your your ad reporting and your management and stuff. So when you go and actually look at your ad results, you just simply, or what I do is I just simply look up this table, right? And I'm just going to kind of describe briefly what it means on each level. It says budget $5. That's obviously your daily budget, right? And if this is assuming a $10 margin product, for example, let's say you had a day where you had a 900% ROI, that would be selling 5. You would then increase your budget 5 to 25, and you'll see that's the biggest percentage jump that's out there. Let's look at another example. Let's say your budget is $35. Right, we're looking at this little blue column right here. All right, let's say your budget is $35, and you make 6 sales during the day at a $10 margin. I'm telling you to increase your budget to 50. Right? If you make 3 sales, you'll keep it the same. If you make 9 sales or more, you'll bring it to 75. Right? One more example, let's say you spent $25 over the past 24 hours. You look at how many you sold 4. You're going to change your budget to 35. Okay, that's the scaling rules. Definitely, like I said, you can use these if you want, but I really recommend building your own based on your own kind of risk tolerance, how aggressive you want to scale. Kind of use these as judgment marks. This is about an average risk tolerance. So horizontal scaling, very important, very powerful, very misunderstood. Scaling 101, again, when something works, show it to more similar people. Okay, so the number of targeting options you have, which in our case means the number of interest groups you have, that directly corresponds to the number of horizontal scaling opportunities you would have available. Okay, number of horizontal scaling options you'd have available, and those include interest groups, website custom audiences like retargeting audiences, lookalike audiences, page-based audiences, right? Any way to show it to more similar people, right? You see it right here, scaling 101. We need to show it to more similar people, and this is again why the interest group strategy works so well. So what is horizontal scaling exactly? It's when you would create more ad sets showing the exact same product, using the exact same post. The only difference, the only variable that you're changing is the targeting. Okay? And in the simplest form of things, let's say you have 10 interest groups. Then you would have 10 different horizontal scales, one for each interest group. And we're going to implement that in a couple minutes on our current product. Now, there are different phases of horizontal scaling. Not every product deserves to be 100% horizontally scaled. We have to review the data. We have to look at our profitability and our key metrics, and obviously, most importantly, our return on investment. Right? Because some products might be profitable $5, some products might be profitable $500, right? They're not equal. So there are different phases of scaling. Okay, phase 0 is vertical scaling because you're always doing vertical scaling. The second that you have a product that is working, you're going to be doing vertical scaling. Okay, remember that you're going to be applying vertical scaling to every single one of your interest groups. Okay, to every single one of your ad sets. They're all going to get vertical scaled. Ideally, we'd have 1 million ad sets spending $200 each. Right? That would be in an ideal world. Okay. Now, phase 1 is your horizontal scaling. And there are 3 different intensities of your phase 1 scaling. Okay? Horizontal scaling, you're either going to go all in, you're going to go 50%, or you're going to do quote unquote unsure. Okay? Now, let me review a couple of these. So, phase 1 example setup, right? Let's say your niche has 10 interest groups. And let's say you've also built 2 retargeting audiences and 2 lookalike audiences. Okay. This means you have 14 total audiences. Okay. You're now going to go ahead and we've already tested our products. We've already spent $25 on our campaign, right? We're now going to talk about phase 1 all in, right? So when does this come into play? This, in fact, is going to come into play today, this specific scenario, right? All in. It means exactly how it sounds. We're going to go all in. We're going to push all our chips into the middle. We're going to literally go with every single targeting selection that we have. Okay? Every single targeting selection that we have. Now, why do we do that? Well, when we have a super hot winter, we really feel like there's no risk. Okay, we want to be looking for things that we're at about 75% ROI. Okay, I know we're a little bit under that, but again, that was really truly based on the weirdness of having a couple of the days running without full payments. So I'm really judging this to be a very hot campaign. Okay, if you're at 75% ROI or higher, it's a no-brainer. You're going to be doing all-in phase 1 scaling. Okay, there's no harm in this, right? In my opinion, there's no harm in showing it to everyone as soon as possible because you've already proven that the product is hot. Right? Again, this is the idea of investing more into what's working. So using the example that I laid out here with 14 total audiences. Okay, obviously one of them is already in use for the original ad set that we did to test this campaign. So in this example with 14 total audiences, we would immediately create 13 more ad sets, and we would use the 13 unused interest group / targeting options that we have available. Right? So each of these ads, each of these new horizontally scaled ad sets, they'd start at $5. They'd run for $25, right? Every ad set is individual, okay? So if you had success with one ad set, it does not mean you're going to have success with the next, right? Now, obviously, you're going to have a really good chance of success because the interest group strategy is all about people who are similar, right? So you're going to have similar people looking at it, but you need to really keep in mind that every ad set is different, right? Success from one ad set guarantees you nothing in another ad set, okay? Always keep that in mind. But as soon as you're done with all-in scaling, you'd immediately go from one ad set to 14, right? You would literally 14x your spend immediately, right? You would literally spend a lot more to this product because instead of having one ad set, you'd have 14. Okay, you can see how valuable, how powerful that is. And by the way, vertical scaling gets applied to each of these ad sets as well. Right, again, I told you everything funnels back into vertical scaling. So in this all-in scenario, we'd have 14 ad sets that we would then to look on a 24-hour basis. We look to scale those individually by budget. Okay, so you could tell, obviously, going to be incredibly valuable if you find a really hot product that you could then scale horizontally and vertically. So So let's talk about a 50% scenario. Okay, product is profitable. You're getting between 35 and 75% ROI. It's not insanely hot, but you're selling it consistently, right? And I think that the ROI number really makes a lot of the decision making for you. Okay. In this case, we would feel like there's a slight risk in showing it to 100% of the audience, right? We're not exactly sure that it's an unbelievable all-in winner. I mean, we're definitely very confident. We're definitely very happy. What we're going to do is go in 50% of the way. Okay, so again, in our scenario, right, we have 14 total audiences. One of them is already obviously being used, so we really have 13 total audiences to scale to. We're going to create 6 ad sets, and we would pick 6 different interest groups to apply to those horizontally scaled ad sets. So it's not as powerful as all in. Right, all in, we would have gone in with all 14 of our interest groups. On the 50% scale, we're only going with half of them. Okay, so you'd immediately go from 1 ad set to 7. Okay, because we'd be adding those 6 additional ad sets. Okay, now there's a part 2 of this. Each of the phase 2 50% ad sets get to $25, $5 a day, $5, right? You're going to vertically scale any of them that are working, okay? Now here's the rule. If you pick up 2 more winning ad sets, basically that means at the $25 mark, if 2 of these horizontally scaled new ad sets, right, out of the 6 you created, if 2 of them are winning, aka profitable, then we'll scale the other 50%. Basically, then we'll go all in. Right, we'll exhaust our options for targeting. Okay, so in part 1 of this scenario, we added 6 ad sets, so we were using 7 out of our 14. Once we find 2 more winning ad sets, we now want to go all in. We want to add the 7 unused targeting options, bringing us to we now have 14 out of the 14 targeting options used for this hot product. Okay. One more scenario. Phase 1 scenario, unsure. Okay, and in fact, you already know about this because this is kind of that one more test scenario that I was giving a couple of weeks ago about that middling scenario, right? Product is slightly profitable, close to break even, or it has good stats. And this is kind of quote unquote unknown but worth the gamble, right? We just don't know. We think the product might be worth it. We're just not sure if we matched it up correctly, right? This is where we would look at those back end stats, right? Front end stats were not profitable. Back-end stats, CPM, CTR, CPC, right? If we hit 2 out of those 3, this is where we would jump into the unsure scenario. Right? What are we going to do? Well, we're going to turn off the original ad and we're going to create 1 more ad set using only 1 of our other interest groups. Okay. The key here is that we'd want to use our quote-unquote best interest group. Right? At the beginning, you may not know what your best interest group is, but certainly you'd want to use the one that would give you the lowest CPM. Okay. So in this case, you would either have 2 ad sets running or 1, right? You might have 2 if you decide to continue that original ad set, right? For example, let's say you're just at break even for that first ad set. You don't necessarily need to turn it off, but you definitely want to go into this unsure scenario and add in 1 more. And remember, no product will ever get a 3rd try, right? So you give it a 2nd try on the unsure, but you're either going to then jump into full horizontal scaling or you're done. Right, you're never going to give a product a 3rd chance. Okay, so those are 3 scenarios, and of course, there's part 2 to this scenario, and you can guess what it is, right? If you pick up a winner, if you prove that this unsure test turns out to be profitable, then you just go right back up the progression. Then you go to your 50% your 50% horizontal scale, right? And then if that 50% horizontal scale works, we already know what to do after that. We would then turn it into our all-in scale, right? So that's the horizontal scale. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about a couple other scaling strategies that would be basically progressed next week if our horizontal scale goes well. Okay, and a couple of those are going to be right here. Phase 2. Phase 2, scaling by objective. Okay, we're only going to move to this phase if we're still profitable through horizontal scaling. Okay, so this is obviously something that would happen after horizontal scaling, right? It certainly happens after vertical scaling. And what we're doing here is we're simply going to look for our best ad sets. And then we're going to create the exact same ad. We're going to create the exact same targeting But the difference is we're going to use a different objective. Okay, we're not going to use website conversion. Instead, we'll try PPE, clicks to website and video objectives, right? And why do we want to do this? Well, again, Scaling 101 says show something that works to more similar people. Okay, and let's say you have an audience of 1 million people. Website conversion, you'll never be able to show 100% of your audience just on one objective. It's because Facebook deems some people to be worthy of seeing website conversion ads. Facebook sees other people as worthy of seeing PPE ads because they're more likely to engage. Facebook sees some people as more likely to see clicks to website ads. So the bottom line is you're never going to show it to 100% of your audience. By doing scaling by objective, you keep the exact same audience, the same targeting, the same interest groups, the same ad. The difference is you use a different objective. Okay, so this would be something that we might try next week, right? We would take our best horizontally scaled ad sets and scale them by objective. Okay, phase 3. This would be 2 weeks from now. We would move on to this phase if we're still profitable through objective scaling. Okay, and you're going to take your best performing ads, and at this point, they could be any objective, right? You might have clicks to website working, you might have PPE working, you might have website conversion working, you might have video views working, you might have all 4 of them working. All you're going to do is take your best performing ads, you're going to duplicate them, and you're going to make one change. You're simply going to take out United States, and you're going to add in Canada, Mexico, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Okay, those are going to be the 4 countries that you would want to, the 5 countries you'd want to scale to. Okay. Now keep in mind, sometimes you will have to make changes to the targeting. For example, you might have to remove some intersects because the overall population of these countries are going to be smaller than the United States in terms of Facebook targeting. Okay, so we're progressing down here. You would get here if you had success through objective scaling. Okay, and one more, phase 4, scaling manually. Right, we're going to move to this phase if we're still profitable through international scaling. Right, so again, this would be looking like about 2 or 3 weeks out. Right, in this case, you take your best performing website conversion ads and you duplicate them, keeping everything exact. Right, you don't change anything. The only thing you're changing is you're going to change your bid type from auto to manual. All right, so now I want to show you. This is actually going to be a live scale that I've done. I'm going to basically jump you right into where I'm at in this kind of setup. So I have a product. I did my niche testing, and I found that the product was a winner. I scaled the ad to about $105, profitable on it, and I made about I think 13 orders, 15 sales. So I was definitely profitable on the product. It's a drop ship product, and now I've already done some vertical scaling. Right now, it's time to do horizontal scaling, and you're going to see how basically your scale will explode in terms of. And that's a good word, right? In terms of really just kind of overnight, really in just a matter of minutes, you'll see we'll go from 1 ad set to 8 ad sets, and that obviously means we have 8 times the amount of chances to make more sales. Right? We have 8 times the amount of chances to now do vertical scaling because everything funnels back into vertical scaling. So again, you're going to jump right into watching me do a actual live horizontal scale after doing a little bit of a vertical scale as well. Okay, so we have wedding magazines, we have wedding websites, we have wedding celebrities, and we have wedding stores. We also have wedding broad, and we have wedding demographics. So we have 6 total audiences that we're able to build horizontally. So we would be, and obviously we're using one of them, right? So we're immediately able to duplicate this ad 5 times, right? Because we have 6 interest groups, one of them is being used. We want to go horizontal all in. So what are we going to do? We're simply going to scale 5 extra times. And we can literally just do this. Check this checkbox, duplicate ad set. Okay, it's going to take everything the same campaign, obviously the same post, right? We have our little post here, if you're engaged or married, game over, here's the link, etc. Right? We don't need to change the post. The only thing we're changing is our targeting. Okay, so we're going to come over here and click edit. Okay, now because I'm duplicating this off of my original one, I want to be sure that I'm taking this budget to $5. Okay, we're starting all of our ads to $5. Okay, add to cart, we're keeping add to cart, of course. The only thing that we're changing is our targeting. Okay, now remember this is specific to phone cases, so of course we are keeping our mobile device user base. But what I'm going to do over here next take this out. I'm going to enter in my other interest group. And we could do, let's just do wedding magazines first, I guess. Okay. So we got our wedding magazines in here. And we're at 440,000 in size. No need to intersect. We're already inside of our sweet spot, 75,000 to 500,000. And this is our magazine interest group. I'll come up over here. I like naming him what the interest group is now that I'm in the horizontal scale. So I can move pretty quickly when I'm doing my reporting and just kind of understand. So literally, I'm going to do this 5 times, right? I'm going to do this 5 times over here. So then, of course, I'll place this order. We just have to do this a couple different times. So we have our magazine interest group now added into this scale. And again, we're going to have a lot of ad sets here, right? We're not going to be starting at $35 for these new ad sets because every ad set is individual, right? Every ad set is individual. So now I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to duplicate off of this one now. Edit over here. Okay, how about this time we build, I don't know, let's build the websites. Let's do the websites. But we're going to do all of them, so it really doesn't matter what order we're doing. So we'll do websites. And I got my list of websites. So, of course, I'm going to remove the magazines, and I'm going to add in my list of websites here. Okay. Looks good. 1.4 million in size. We need to intersect. Okay, we know how to do that. We're looking for the biggest interest in size. Looks like it is the knot. So I'm copying that, removing it, narrow further, and I'm placing it in there. Where is it? Whoops. The knot. 1.3 million. Okay, that shrinks down way too small. That doesn't seem right. Let's remove this. So that's obviously just something weird with Facebook. Let's try Style Me Pretty instead. Fewer than 1,000. Why are we still like that? That's weird. Let's see. All right. So that brings us a little too small at 66,000. So I'm going to bring this back up here. I'm going to try one more intersect wedding wire because it's still pretty big. Move this down into the next one. And that shrinks us to 140. There we go. So that's our sweet spot, 75,000 to 500,000. We got 3 levels of intersect. Obviously our base, just mobile phone user. Then our wedding websites and intersected with wedding wire. So we're looking over here. Did I save? Yeah, websites interest group. So I'm going to save that. Okay, we're going to do it again. Let's do the celebrities next. Yeah, the wedding celebrity interest group. So let me place this order. Okay, this is going to be our interest group of celebrity wedding planners. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate the ad set again. Edit. Okay. Celebrities interest group. Come down here, keeping our $5 budget. Removing this. And I'm copy and pasting my list of, what do you call it? Wedding planners. A couple didn't make it over there. Okay, so these are our wedding planners. Again, no intersect needed. We're right there at 170,000. And we're going to save this ad set. We're going to place this order. We're now at 4 different interest groups. We still have a couple more to add. Okay, we got our wedding stores interest group now. So again, I'm just going to duplicate this again. Oh, whoops. I placed that order too quickly. I got to edit that real quick. So it was this one. So stores. And I got my list of stores here. I'm going to paste that into my little box here. And we got that in there. Got them all in here? I don't see Men's Warehouse. Okay, size-wise, we're looking at 800,000, so a little bit big. And I want to make sure I got them all. Okay. So we need to intersect. We're looking for the biggest size. Got 513 at Men's Warehouse, looking like that's the, here we go, David's Bridal. So David's Bridal at 1.3 million. We're going to remove that from the first box, come down here. Intersecting leaves us with 34,000, so a little bit too small. Not going to be able to intersect this one, that's okay. Just bring David's Bridal. We're going to run with 800,000. Okay, and we are now going to make sure it's named. Okay. All right, we got one more to do, one more interest group one to do, and that is going to be another duplicate. This is going to be just the broad interest group. So we're going to come over here and just go in and type in broad. All right. And of course, this is just going to be our main broad keywords. $9.7 million. Totally normal, right? We're doing something very broad, right? We're going to see huge numbers. That's the whole idea of broad. And we're going to save this. So again, we had one ad set just 10 minutes ago. Now we have 6, right? Now we have 6 ad sets over here. Okay, we have 6 different ad sets. And this is looking like a really nice scale. Okay, now there are a couple of other audiences that we'd want to build. Okay, so because we have 8 ad sets running to a product that we already know is in high demand, right? And ideally, we'd see this number be something like $200 in a couple of days, right? And imagine if we had 8 ad sets running at $200, and then we start doing international scaling and objective scaling and manual bidding. One product can carry you. I call it the 95-5 rule. You've heard of the 80-20 rule, right? 95-5 rule. You're going to make 95% of your money through 5% of your products. Meaning the winners are going to carry you not only for weeks, for months, right? So this is what you'd love to see, right? In a bigger niche, let's say in the cat niche, I have 11 interest groups and I have 5 different audiences, right? So that ad set, that scale would look even bigger. In fact, it would look double the size of this because I'd have 16 horizontal ad sets. Okay, the idea is that you're maxing out because you know that a product is working. You're then maxing out, and we should see this number, this number right here, be significantly higher just tomorrow, right? Because today we were going to spend 35, now we're spending 40, 45, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 70 bucks. So we doubled the amount that we spent, right? So this is the scaling. I see some questions about the scaling rules. The jumps are small, right? So I went 5 to 15 to 25 to 35 over 4 days, right? I did not go from 5 to 35. That would definitely hurt your campaign. Okay. So this is really, these are our only campaigns running right now. And of course, what we need to do this week is for sure launch new product. And then you can kind of see how this business works on a week-to-week basis. You're scaling your winners and you're looking for more.